All right, you've no doubt heard of friends with benefits. No, we're not going there this morning. But compare and contrast, in a time of COVID-19, it's now all about friends with conditions. Who's calling me? You've got any number of folks basically breaking off even long-term relationships with family and friends alike. About a third, according to a piece out of NBC, about a third of millennials and Gen Xers have cut ties with friends, family members, or acquaintances who will not get the COVID-19 vaccine. This as the COVID-19 vaccine continues to drive a deep wedge throughout society. Joined this morning by Valerie Sokolosky, president and founder of Valerie and Company, a leadership, executive branding, and business etiquette firm. Host of a great podcast, by the way, and the author of 8 books. Valerie, you are prolific, including Do It Right, the new book on business, or the new book of business etiquette. Valerie, welcome back to the show.
It's a pleasure. Always, Gail.
So, as if we don't have enough things that divide us across the nation these days when it comes to identity politics, politics in general, social injustice, well, the list goes on and on. Now it is the out-and-out war between the vaxxers and the anti-vaxxers, and it's spilling over into the business environment as well, isn't it?
Well, it's spilling over everywhere, as you just gave the statistics about relationships. Gail, this is ridiculous. I just want to start with the word respect. Where is it? If we can't respect each other and our opinions, when we finally get together, we might have some solutions. But until then, when we're so divided about so many things, and this is just one more thing, all it's going to do is continue to polarize. But you know what? Here's the good news. Individually, we can do something about it ourselves. So let's just take it there. What can we do individually?
Right. You know, it's been said, and I know it's cliche, kind of trite, we can't control people, places, and things. The only thing we can control is ourselves.
That is very true. And yet, you know what I'm finding? Just real stories. I am finding, as we know, that people tend to pay attention to information that supports their biases, their preconceived ideas.
Sure.
We've got to get away from that and think for ourselves. I have an actual situation where a relative, I will say, was listening to us, of course. We are vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Well, but he doesn't live with us, and so he began listening to the people around him that he surrounds himself with. Well, the majority of those people just felt like vaccination was a conspiracy. If you get vaccinated, we don't know what will happen. You could die next year. You could be sterile. All these things that he began talking about, listening, here's the deal, listening to other people instead of thinking for himself. Well, finally, somebody near to him got COVID. Then it scared him, okay? Mm-hmm. So he went ahead and got a vaccination. But guess what? After the vaccination, he started getting some ringing in his ears. And instead of thinking, well, it'll go away, the immediate reaction the very next day was, see, I wish I hadn't gotten it, and I am not going to get the second one.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Okay. Think for yourself. Let's be patient.
Okay, but it goes back to your point about confirmation bias, where we tend to flock to those who agree with our individual points of view, and we tend to gather information from those sources that support our points of view. That's one of the things that I love so much about this job, is that I steep myself in opposing points of view. Do I always agree with them? No, but do they sometimes give me reason for pause? And I think, as you were saying, it's up to us to think for ourselves and, along those lines, to broaden out our perspectives.
Yes, absolutely right. I will tell you, however, from a doctor's perspective, I just wanted to throw this in. I was speaking with a doctor who is one of the most calm, altogether persons I've ever met. Mm-hmm. I have never seen this woman angry. She came over one night last week and was livid, and here's what she said, and this really hit me. I am so angry, Valerie. I said, why? I've never seen you angry. Well, because I and all of my doctor colleagues and all of our nurses are in the hospitals today, every day, with this Delta variant, helping people who, quote unquote, who literally choose to be there because they are not getting vaccinated, and we are dealing with them. Guess what? We are at risk. And so it's a little aggravating to be working with people in the hospitals that have gotten there because of poor choices. Now, I'm not going to make a judgment about that, Gail. Mm-hmm. I am just telling from a medical perspective. That's what she said. So think about that. Are we thinking about other people? It isn't just about you taking a vaccine, right? Mm-hmm. It's about other people that might get it because you didn't.
Well, and you have to wonder, Valerie, because, this is such a multi-layered conversation because you can go way back before the election, and you had then candidate Kamala Harris saying, well, I'm not going to get vaccinated if it's the Trump vaccine, words along those lines. Not trying to politicize it, but unfortunately, that's exactly what our government has done. And we get these conflicting stories, and I get it. The science changes, and along with the science changing, so does the narrative. But if you dig down into some of these mandates, these guidelines that they have put out rather capriciously and arbitrarily, is there any wonder that there are so many folks, and I include Dr. Anthony Fauci among those who have put out this rather meandering narrative, because you go back to the very beginning of COVID-19 when he said, oh, no, you, the great unwashed, don't have to be masked. Funny how that narrative changed, but I can't help but think that that's part of the reason for all the vaccine hesitancy.
You know, you're right. People are so darn confused with all the different messages. I just want to go back to the word respect and the relationships that it's causing to split. You gave the statistics of a third of the millennials have stopped their relationships. My goodness. You know, I just have to wonder, how strong was your relationship with the people that you have decided to disconnect with? Because I, for one, am not going to let this issue, whether it's me believing one way and somebody else believing another, that is not going to affect my relationships with people I love and care for. Now, maybe we need to set some boundaries, and that's okay. Let me give you an example. You know, I have the podcast. I reached out just to say hello to someone that had been on the show, hadn't spoken with her for a while, and I said something very innocuous in the email. I just mentioned something about politics, and immediately this person, nice person, shot back, all by email, by the way, and started lambasting Trump, and everything that is happening today that's evil is because of Trump, and everything that is happening with what he put in place, and blah, 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 blah. I didn't even go there. Right. But just a very small little comment that I made caused a flare. So
tripped your trigger.
That's where, right, and that's the thing I think we have to realize, respect. It's causing too many triggers. So it's a choice. If you want to go there, then be ready for the flare. And I just think it's important for all of us to step back, let it go. Just don't give your opinions. If somebody asks, just say, well, I'm vaccinated, and here's why. Or, well, I chose not to, and here's why. And then let it go. Don't let it get into relationships. The day we lose the human aspect of life, we're just going to continue to spiral down and down and down, and that's what's happening.
Absolutely. And it seems to me, along with respect, it's hand in glove. We need to learn to agree to disagree and to treat each other not only with respect, but with a large degree of civility into that equation as well. And it seems as though, and you and I could go on forever about this, I could go all Luddite and blame it on social media and the anonymity and the fact that you've got so many people hiding behind that anonymity and spouting off all sorts of garbage and vitriol on social media. But it seems to me we need to learn or rediscover the art of conversation and of robust discourse, which, by the way, this nation was based upon. One of the founding principles of this nation. I don't know, First Amendment, anyone? I think along with respect comes civility and an ability to take in those perspectives and viewpoints that you may not necessarily agree with, but that you might learn from.
Absolutely. And back to what I said earlier, what can we do as individuals? Gail, here's what we could do as individuals for our own well-being, and that is stop listening to the news, the social media, quit looking at all the strings. Yes, social media does cause some angst. There's no doubt about it. The news causes some angst. Individually, do what you can for your own well-being. And here's one fact. This is not a goody-goody. This is a fact. The more we focus intentionally, that's the word, on positive thoughts, the more we are going to push out the negative ones. So, as an example, again, facts. Every morning, get up, even before you get up, and say 5 things you're grateful for. Because when you're grateful for something, you're not thinking negative. And by the way, brain-wise, did you know that you cannot possibly think of 2 things at once? That's fact.
That kind of shoots down the whole multitasking narrative now, doesn't it?
and it does. Absolutely. We could do a whole podcast on that.
Yes, we could.
So push out the negatives. Focus on what's positive in your life. Those things, as you said earlier, what can you control? And if you just force yourself habitually to get your mind going in that path, the more habitually you do that as an intentional action, the more it will become habit. So just take care of yourself and your own thoughts. That can certainly help distract all that's going on and cause you some calm so that you can just stop and reflect on, hey, what's important here? Let's not start conversation that isn't going anywhere, because it's not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Approach each day, welcome each day, embrace each day with an attitude of gratitude. Certainly grateful for you, Valerie Sokolosky of Valerie and Company, leadership, executive branding, business etiquette firm. Valerie, you've got a great podcast and author of a great book, among 7 others, Do It Right, the new book of business etiquette. And where can we find your book?
On Amazon, and I have to say something if I can, Gail, because it's relative. I just did a town hall on the podcast. It's called, go to youtube.com/Valerie and Company, youtube.com/Valerie and Company. This Monday, you will see a town hall on my podcast where I brought together 4 senior executives in a town hall setting, talking about all of this, talking about what these large organizations, and one of them was a medical teaching university, what each of the 4 are doing in their companies, in their environment, about returning to the workplace and flex hours and all of that. You will find it fascinating. I will tell you, just curiosity, I was surprised at what they said. That's all I'm going to say. But it will launch this Monday, and it will run for a couple of weeks. It's so relevant to what we're talking about. So please go to that podcast, Doing It Right, the Stories That Make Us.
Sounds like a plan. I'm going to do just that and hope to follow up with you on it, because that sounds absolutely fascinating. Valerie Sokolosky, founder and president, Valerie and Company. Thanks as always for your time, your insights, and your perspectives. Certainly appreciate you.
And I appreciate you. Thanks, Gail.